What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C4 here today. Draft season has started on Beast Mode TV. Now, I know most of you guys probably haven't been with me long enough to see my draft coverage in the years past. I've done it for almost 4 years now. They've always been some of my most popular videos, so I hope you guys do enjoy. There is a format that I've done every year past, and I felt I'd tweak it a little bit this season. But basically what we're going to do is we go through the top 5 quarterbacks. Well, but today we're doing quarterbacks. We go through the top 5 players of every position, and then I also give you some, who's the most NFL ready? Who do I think is going to be a bust? Who do I think has the most potential? Some sleepers, stuff like that. Just some quick, well, not really, I don't know how quick it's going to be, but just some draft analysis. And what I usually do is 2 sets of rankings. I do one before the combine, which is what you're seeing now, and then I do one after the combine. Not a whole lot changes in terms of, quarterbacks, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers even. But, obviously when you see the 40 times, you see some of the agility drills, you see who actually either, improves their stock or absolutely, they run oh my god, how the fuck, he ran like a 4.9? What the hell, he's a wide receiver? So, things like that can switch. But for positions like today's video, the quarterbacks, it probably won't change too much. So, without further ado, we'll jump right in. So, before we get into the top 5, we will go with a couple guys I'm just not going to talk about in this video, but I think should get some looks. Looking at, we use a bunch of different websites, plus the plethora of college football that I watch. I watch an unhealthy amount of college football. So a couple quarterbacks currently projected to be undrafted that I think could develop into something. Not going to say, oh my god, they're going to be the next Tom Brady. But I do like what I see. I like Patrick Towles from Boston College. I think he was a transfer from Kentucky. I think he has the intangibles that he could probably make a roster. I like Gunnar Kiel from Cincinnati. One time was the #1 high school prospect. Coming out, I can't remember what year that would have been, 2011 maybe. Has some injuries and stuff, but I think he has the size and the arm to make it in the NFL. Another one, I like Seth Russell from Baylor, suffered a really bad injury. But I do like him, and he does look better, in my honest opinion, than Bryce Petty did. And Bryce Petty started a couple games. Product of maybe the shitty quarterback play in New York. But I think Seth Russell is a better prospect than Bryce Petty was. And he's projected to go undrafted as it stands right now today, which is the 19th of January. I think he would be a great camp body that can develop into a eventual, solid backup. But let's go into the top 5. Every other quarterback that's available after Seth Russell are projected to get drafted. So at number 5, as of today, I'm going with Davis Webb from Cal, 6'4", 230 pounds, the Texas Tech transfer, moving from that air raid offense to still pretty much an air raid-esque offense in the University of California. He currently has a 4th, 5th round grade from CBSSports.com. I think he'll probably go a little bit higher than that. I think he'll probably be a 2nd, 3rd round grade once everything's said and done. On the year for Cal, he had 4,300 passing yards, 37 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, as well as 6 rushing touchdowns. My pro comparison for him is Jared Goff. I think, it was really nice to see Carson Wentz do so good last year. It was really nice, well, not really nice, but really nice for some fans to see Dak Prescott do so good last year. But last year and this year, draft classes for quarterbacks is not very hot. I think, luckily the Eagles hit on Carson Wentz. But for the most part, there's not a whole lot of beasts in college, guys that people are drooling at the mouth. I mean, Josh Rosen was there for a little bit with UCLA, but then he had a bad injury and missed most of last season. That is going to hamper his progression and his ability to develop. I think that may stunt his development just a teeny little bit. So I think that if it was a strong draft class last year, Jared Goff, the Carson Wentz and stuff, they would have been late 1st round picks. If there was better prospects. I mean, that's easier said than done. Oh my god, well, there's a better guy, obviously they get picked, but there wasn't. You can't just implement a guy that was better, magically better, which I get. But if the run of, the Marcus Mariotas, the Jameis Winstons, you got the fucking Andrew Lucks, the RG3s, all that stuff. For the last couple years, we've always been, 2 guys that are people like this guy. They're drooling at the mouth of these quarterbacks. Last year was the start of oh my god, we need a quarterback. This guy's probably not worth a top 5 pick, but because we need a quarterback and we're so starved at that position, we need to go up and get him. And I think this year is very similar to that. And Darius Webb, for me, it's easy to make that comparison. Cal quarterback comparing to a Cal quarterback. They're very much the same. They have very much the same skill set. I think Davis Webb's a little bit bulkier. I think he probably has 10 or 15 pounds on Jared Goff. But you see the same instincts. You see the same positives that you saw at Cal from Jared Goff in Davis Webb. And you've seen the same negatives. The whole is there's going to be a big transition period where It's just playing that pro scheme. Once you get to that pro scheme, that's why I think quarterbacks, they may not be the most talented, they may not have the highest upside, but they may have played in a more pro-ish scheme in college. These last draft and this draft, it's going to be, adding to their value more so than almost any other year, because that's what teams need. Teams now are not looking for the project quarterback. Everyone wants results immediately, and I don't really see anyone in this draft that has immediate results. But for someone that's picking in the 3rd to 4th round, they might be able to get my comparison to Jared Goff, as where, last year that would have cost them a top 5 pick. There's value there. I think Davis Webb presents probably the most value in this year's draft class for me, and that's why I have him here at the number 5 spot. Number 4, number 3, I have a tie, and I think maybe it's because of my bias, because I really, really, really like one of these guys a lot. Maybe I considered it a tie, but currently as it stands today, at number 4, I have Deshaun Watson from Clemson. 6'2", 215 pounds. That is college football championship winning quarterback Deshaun Watson. The year he finished with 4,600 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, and 9 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Now, I like Deshaun Watson. I'm a big fan of Deshaun Watson. I remember it was his redshirt freshman year. I think it was a redshirt freshman that he finished like this, played the whole second half of the season on a torn ACL. I was like, Jesus Christ. This guy, not only was he putting up really, really, really good-looking numbers, he had a torn ACL. Like, that's the kind of mentality that a lot of quarterbacks don't have. Quarterbacks like, maybe Connor Cook. That's why he slipped so far he did. I think I'm a big fan of Deshaun Watson. I hope, for the love of God, he can get, all the transition from Clemson offense to a pro offense down sooner than later. And I hope, for honestly looking at all these prospects, I hope Deshaun Watson turns out to be the best out of all of them. I just think he deserves it. He's a great player. He has the intangibles that some of these quarterbacks don't have. He's a winning quarterback. He's a winner. But then those are the same kind of tags you threw to Tim Tebow when he's coming to Florida. I'm a Gator fan. I love Tim Tebow. And I wouldn't have drafted him in the NFL draft. Because, when you use tags like winner, when you use stuff that aren't... Intangibles are good when you have the tangible skill set. When you have to rely on those intangibles to kind of buff up your draft stock, it's usually not... like you're a good project, but when you're talking in the first round, I want more than intangibles. I want tangible assets, and Deshaun Watson doesn't really have those right now. Can he develop them? Does he have the work ethic to eventually get those? Certainly. He can run. He's mobile. He looks to run. He's just the mold. Everyone knows these types of quarterbacks. The mobile quarterback in college football. The guy that always looks to run first, can throw the ball because he has great talent around him. But when you go to the NFL, you're not going to be able to outrun 95% of the players. You're going to be able to outrun like the nose tackles. That's pretty much it. So for Deshaun Watson, the pro comparison, I've seen Tyrod Taylor. I don't know what website I saw that on, and that is fair. That's if he finally develops into an actual starter. I definitely could see the similarities between him and Tyrod Taylor. They looked, obviously, personally, I'd give Deshaun Watson at Clemson a little bit better grade than Tyrod Taylor at Virginia Tech. But for me, I see Geno Smith with a little bit of upside. Deshaun Watson sees it at Clemson. It's very, very identical, I think, the play style that is, to Geno Smith's last year at West Virginia. Geno Smith at West Virginia, I fell in love with him, to be honest with you. You could have seen, actually, I probably still have those videos up, as maybe I should have took them down because it's pretty embarrassing. But I mocked Geno Smith to the Philadelphia Eagles in the first round of, what was that, 2012, 2013? He was great. You had Tavon Austin, Stedman Bailey. The offense looked absolutely perfect. He had the big arm. He could run. He could do it all. And I think Geno Smith, when he gets to the NFL, it's the mental, the intangible things that he doesn't have. I think that may have actually hindered his development alongside getting fucking rocked in the face by Ike Ekpale. But I think Deshaun Watson has those intangibles. So I think what Geno Smith brought to the table where people fell in love with him, the Jets obviously fell in love with him, I think Deshaun Watson has all the other things that Geno Smith was lacking. I think from a physical standpoint, I think they're very, very similar. Like I said, I don't want to go on about it forever and ever, but I do hope, and I am pulling for Deshaun Watson, as he is my favorite quarterback in this year's draft class. Not in terms of, if I was the Eagles and I need to draft one, I wouldn't have fucking touched him with a 10-foot pole. But in terms of players that I really, really enjoy watching and root for, Deshaun Watson is number 1. But he's only number 4 on my rankings. Number 3, I'm going with Patty Mahomes from Texas Tech, 6'2", 230 pounds. Finished the year with 5,000 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, 10 picks, as well as 12 rushing touchdowns. Now, I saw one, I don't know, I think it might have been on Walter Football. Maybe I saw it on straight up on fucking Twitter or something like that. Someone said, doesn't he kind of look like Derek Carr? And I said, that's it. That is it. I don't think he's as refined as Derek Carr, but you look at Derek Carr's tape at Fresno State and you see a very, very, very close similarity to what Patrick Mahomes did there in that air raid offense, that gimmicky offense at Texas Tech. But it doesn't matter what gimmick you're in. If you have the same play style, if you have the same attributes that are positive, it doesn't matter. You fucking throw it 40 to 50, 60 times a game, you throw it 20, 30 times a game, you still see that comparison. It jumps off at you, and it does for me. I was all over Derek Carr. I was on Derek Carr like a fucking tie hooker on a rich billionaire, motherfucker. I thought Derek Carr was the best quarterback in that year's draft class. I think I ranked him at number 3 when most people didn't even have him top 5. Me and my buddy, I watched a lot of college, we're like, man, Derek Carr, that guy is going to be very, very good. And someone, I would have reached for him in the first round, personally. Unfortunately, the Eagles were kind of riding the high of the Nick Foles. I think that was the 27-2 season, so we weren't really in the market for a quarterback. But Derek Carr, I think Patty Mahomes certainly has the potential to be the best quarterback in this year's draft class. It's just, it's the learning curve that almost all these quarterbacks, I think you could probably say all these quarterbacks are going to have, because none of these guys are pro ready. I don't see anyone right now that I would start with any sort of confidence week 1 and expect them to have the same success that Carson Wentz or Dak Prescott had. I see a lot of Jared Goffs. Because obviously Patty Mahomes comes from the Texas Tech system, not a pro-friendly system, but the arm, it's all about the arm talent. I think that Patty Mahomes can run. He had 12 rushing touchdowns. He's a big body. He's durable. Kind of looks like motherfucking Tim Tebow a little bit. But he can throw it, and he's fucking accurate as shit. And he threw the ball a lot, and he didn't throw it too much like quarterbacks from like the Western, what's that team? Whatever fucking team Mike Leach went up to. I remember they had a good quarterback prospect, but he had to get like fucking Tommy John surgery because he threw the ball 70 times a game. I think Patty Mahomes, if you're looking for a project quarterback that's a little bit safer than the guy we're going to talk about at number 2, I think Patty Mahomes could certainly be your guy. I think he's currently mocked to go like the 2nd, 3rd round. I definitely could see him squeak in to the 1st round. I'd like him. You're not even going to see, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to see Brad Kye on my list. I do not see really anything there outside of a late mid-round sleeper. I think Mahomes will creep in front of him for sure to get, that 2nd, maybe 1st round draft pick. Going to number 2, I'm going DeShone Kizer. Or DeShone, probably DeShone, that's what it looks like. DeShone Kizer from Notre Dame, 6'4", 230 pounds on the year, 3,000 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and 7 rushing touchdowns. Now, I don't think you're allowed to have an agent by now, and his agent probably convinced him, hey, it's a weak draft class, you might be able to get your 1st round grade. I think it would have been better for DeShone Kizer to stay 1 more year. He's only a redshirt sophomore. He can stay for 1 more year, develop that arm talent, and I just think that's the thing I see with him. I think, obviously, when you see 6'4", 230 pounds, he can run like a motherfucker, he can run like a goddamn deer, has the arm talent, accuracy's issue, decision-making, all the things that come with maturity, a little bit of an issue. I think waiting 1 more year would have made him a consensus fucking top 5 pick, maybe even the consensus number 1 overall for a team that needs a quarterback. Whereas this year, I've seen some places saying that he might slip to the 2nd round just because everyone sees him as a project quarterback. So, obviously, it comes in with the whole injury thing. What if he went back and got hurt? What if he went back and because of Notre Dame? What if he got hit with the curse that Malik Zaire got hit with? Who knows? But for DeShone Kizer, pro comparison, I see him a little bit in the mold, not as, I would say, finished product as he was coming out of college, but I see Blake Bortles in DeShone Kizer. Very similar statistic seasons, their final years before they end up going to the NFL. I think Kaiser's decision-making is going to hurt him, but I think if you draft a guy like DeShone Kizer, you're going for the upside. If he goes to a team, like Carson Wentz when he went to Philadelphia, where everyone around him was a quarterback mind on the offensive side of the ball. If he goes to a team like that, a team that doesn't need to rush to start him right away and they can kind of see what happens, a team like, I don't know, Arizona, who can sit behind Carson Palmer, maybe the Saints, so he can sit behind Drew Brees. I'm not saying these teams obviously have bigger needs elsewhere, but I'm saying a team like that, where the quarterback that's ahead of them is an established starter. You're not going to have to worry about, any fucking, oh my God, is there going to be a quarterback controversy or anything like that? No, because they're clearly a starter. So you can sit back and develop behind quarterbacks that are proven and have been able to do it. I think that's going to be the best situation for DeShone Kizer. Hell, that's the best situation for all these quarterbacks because I have them as all projects. But I think Kizer, I'm not a huge fan of him, to be honest with you. I wouldn't draft him. Wasn't overly impressed. I saw really the only game that I watched start to finish at Notre Dame I watched the Texas one, and I watched when they played Temple 2 years ago. And Kizer looked very, very good in that game. But you could see where, there may be a little disconnect between college and pro for him. And I personally think if it was up for his best interest, I would have stayed another year and really improved his draft stock to make him an undisputed number 1. But if you see, a team will definitely fall in love with his upside, which is certainly there. And if he can develop and really catch on to the pro game, go behind, like I said, even maybe a Tom Brady. I don't know. Like, I've heard rumors that the Patriots end up flipping Garoppolo. Maybe fucking bring him in or something like that. I don't know if they want to be crazy like that, because I don't know. They're probably all right with Jacoby Brissett. But yes, that is who I have at number 2. This video is going on way too fucking long. So at number 1. It's going to be Mitch Trubisky from North Carolina, 6'3", 220 pounds on the year, 3,800 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions to go along with 3 rushing touchdowns. Again, he's just the best of a worst class. I think there's a lot of upside in this class. You get the Watson, Kizer, Mahomes, Webb, everyone they mentioned. But I think Trubisky, if you had to be a team that absolutely needs a brand new quarterback next year, I think Trubisky is probably the most pro-ready out of all of them, if you could say that, just because he comes from a less gimmickier offense. With him, my pro comparison is Andy Dalton from TCU. I really like Andy Dalton coming to TCU. I think, again, much like a Derek Carr situation, where many people weren't really counting on him to be one of the best quarterbacks in that class. I think I had him ranked my number 3 quarterback in that class, 2nd round pick. I see that with Mitch Trubisky. Nothing great, but the basis. He has the most solid foundation out of any of the quarterbacks, I think, in this year's draft class. And it's going to suck. He is one of those quarterbacks that could be negatively impacted as a product of his environment. I think he's a quarterback that they throw him right away, starting, within probably the first 4 weeks, depending on what dire situation he fucking gets drafted into. It could be the Jets, could be the Bears, could be anything like that. He could be a guy that, couple bad games, if he learns his bad habits, can't learn out of it. A little bit what I'm worried with Carson Wentz with his wonky throwing motion. He's the kind of guy that I think he needs 2 full off seasons before he can start, which is the case for, like I said, a lot of quarterbacks. I'm repeating myself over and over about this because no one's fucking ready right now. But with Trubisky, I think Andy Dalton, that's a great comparison. He's a guy that eventually, if you put the right talent around him, he can throw over 4,000 yards. He can get, almost 30 touchdowns a year, maybe 30, 31, which is, solid. That's a quarterback that you can win with. That's probably the best way to put Mitch Trubisky. I don't see him being a future All-Pro, a future Hall of Famer, but I certainly can see him developing into a quarterback you can win with, and because he has the most solid foundation, and I would say the highest floor out of all these quarterbacks, that makes him the number 1 prospect. So quickly, rounding up, the most NFL ready is Mitch Trubisky. The biggest potential to bust outside of potentially all these motherfuckers, I have Deshaun Watson, unfortunately. Most potential, I'm giving it to DeShone Kizer, and for my number 1 sleeper, I'm going with Davis Webb. So that does it for me here today, guys. Thank you for watching my first official, glad to get back into it, 2017 draft breakdown and pro comparisons video. Hope you guys did enjoy. As always, if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. If you're new, just like the video, maybe leave a comment in the comment section below about who you think will be the best quarterback, who you think will bust, anything like that. Let's get going in the comment section below. And until next time, it's your boy C4 saying peace out.